Hello everybody and welcome. I hope you're all as excited as I am to be here. This is the highlight of our year. One of the great things about RootsTech is that it fosters connection with people. And that was just brought home to me just a couple minutes ago. I went to sit down for a minute, catch my breath, and started talking to this lovely lady in the front row. It turns out we went to the same high school. Her sister was in my high school class in Boulder, Colorado. So this is what we're here for, is to make connections. My name is Allison Taylor, and my husband Tom and I have a company called Pictures and Stories. We write and design and produce personal and family history books. I've been working in the digital photography industry for many, many years. And so today I'm going to talk about metadata and how that can help you to make sure that the information that people for your photos have the information that they need to know who they are. We're going to talk about the importance of that. So to underscore that, I'm going to play a little video for you. It's very short, just about a minute and a half. Sad but true. I'm sorry to do that to you, but just think how I feel. Seriously, most of the photos in this video are ones that I have inherited. I found them in a box in my grandmother's house or a trunk in my dad's house, and they had nothing written on the back. There's no identifying information. So I know they're a part of my family, or at least friends of the family, but I don't know who they are. And everybody who could tell me who they are, most of those people are gone. So this is why it's so important for us to be able to understand how to get that identifying information into a digital photograph, because we are in a digital world, like it or not. Okay. First of all, what is metadata? It just means data about data, okay? And we've actually been using metadata for hundreds of years with photography already. You can see this is kind of old school metadata, some creative ways that people found to identify their photos and tell who's in them. Then we moved to paper prints, where we could write on the back of the print, or sometimes on the front. This picture on the right, that's my grandmother there at the far right in this picture. And it's kind of faded, so it's hard to see. There's some writing at the top that for years I could not figure out what it said. It looked like it said, "Black herring lives." And I was like, what is that? Is that like some secret society? You know, they're kind of dressed weird. Was it like some group that she was in or something? And then just recently I looked at it again and I realized that it said blackberrying time but she spelled blackberrying wrong. So handwriting is not always reliable, let's just say. Okay, so now that everything is going digital, how do we write on the back of a digital photo? That's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, here are some kind of low-ish tech ways to do it. The image on the left was from Amy Johnson-Crow, who's presenting here this week, and I thought this was a pretty good way, if you just can't deal with adding the metadata in digitally, you can actually scan it with a piece of paper that has the information on it. So at least if you're scanning a print, you can add some data that way. But it may not be the optimal way to do it. One thing you don't want to do is open up your photograph in Photoshop or some other photo editing software and type the information directly on the photo, because if you make it smaller or bigger, it can make it unreadable. So metadata is information about a photo that is embedded and becomes a part of the photo, and in the best case scenario, travels with the photo when it's stored, when it's shared, when it's copied, or when it's uploaded to a website. You can think of the photograph as being the motorcycle in this picture, okay? And the metadata goes into the sidecar that's attached to the motorcycle, okay? So today I'm going to tell you a few options you have for putting in some basic metadata in very basic, easy ways. There are a lot of different ways to do it. I'm just going to show you a couple and tell you some things to watch out for. Okay, there are a couple of different kinds of metadata. There's more than two, but these are the only two you really need to worry about. And you don't need to remember what it stands for. EXIF is Exchangeable Image File. IPTC stands for International Press Telecommunications Council, which you don't ever have to remember that again. But IPTC is the data that you are going to be concerning yourself with. That is the user editable data that you can go in and type into your photo. The EXIF data is kind of what gets captured by your digital camera. It's got things like the date photo was taken, the location, the shutter speed, and that kind of thing on your camera. So if you have trouble remembering which is which, I think of IPTC as standing for I put this in my computer. So if you need, it's lame, but it works. Okay, so the kind of things that we can put into IPTC metadata are a title of a photo, caption and never mind, I'm not even going to try to say that, descriptive information, tags, keywords, search capabilities, copyright information, the author or artist, and contact information, which is, I'll talk about why that's important in a minute. So the problem is that metadata seems a lot more confusing than it actually is, because even though there's a standard that's been set up for what types of things can be embedded into a photo, different software programs that you might be using with your photos may show different parts of the metadata. They might hide some and show others, or they might even call it different things. On one, you can type it in and it might be a caption, and on something else it calls it a description. So it makes it seem really confusing, but it's actually not that hard. So I want to start off by taking you on a little metadata journey so you can see what will happen to the metadata that goes along with this photo. Okay, this is George Knightley III and his wife Emma and their dog Harriet. I was almost finished with this presentation before I noticed that there is actually a dog in the picture. He's actually holding a dog, but it kind of blends in with his coat. Took me a long time to see that. So we're gonna follow George and Emma on this journey and find out what happens to their metadata. Okay, so I've just scanned this photo, And I've opened it in Photoshop just because I happen to have Photoshop open. There are a lot of ways you could do it. And I have typed in some information. I've typed in a title and description. I've put in my name, and I have put in my contact information, my email address. I've also put in a couple of search tags so that I can maybe search if I want to bring up later on all of the photos of Emma Knightley, it will find this and show it to me. Now, I have added my email address in here because I want, if someone else is going to download this photo at some point from a website, and they have more questions about it, and they want to be able to contact me, I want them to have a way that they can contact me, or if they want to share information with me about this photo. But that's up to you. You don't have to put that in there if you're concerned about privacy, but I think it's a really great idea to put an email address in there. Okay, so the next thing I do is I decide I want to upload this photo to Family Search. And I'll talk a little bit about how metadata relates to Family Search in a minute, okay? And then I decide, you know, I also want to send this to somebody else. So here I am in Utah, and George and Emma, I have uploaded it to Family Search, and I also decide that I'm going to email this to my aunt, because I think she might like to see it. So I send her an email, I attach the photo to the email, and send it off to my aunt who lives in Colorado. Now, she opens the photo from her email on her Mac, and she looks at it in her Photos app on her Mac, and she can see the title that I've entered in there, but she doesn't see my contact information or anything else. That's kind of all she can see is the title and description. So this sort of shows you how, depending upon what you open it in, some of it might show, some of it might not. Okay, now she uses Ancestry.com to store her stuff, so she's going to upload this picture to Ancestry to attach it to her tree. In the meantime, I have another cousin in Ohio who downloads the photo that I've uploaded to Family Search and opens it in Photoshop, and she can see pretty much everything I've put in there because we use the same program. Okay, here's another random guy in California finds that photo that my aunt uploaded to Ancestry, and he downloads it, he opens it up in Lightroom, which is a program that he uses for his photographs. He can see both my title and my contact information, okay? Even though my aunt was the one that uploaded that photo from her Mac where she couldn't see the contact information, that contact information was still there in the sidecar. And so when he downloaded it from Ancestry, he could see it because his program can see that part of the metadata. Okay, this makes him very, very happy. So happy, he decides his sister would also like to see this, so he uploads it to his Dropbox account, which is where he likes to store his photos, and he shares the Dropbox folder with his sister in Florida. Okay, when she opens it up in Dropbox, she doesn't see that there's any metadata attached to it because Dropbox doesn't have a field that shows metadata. But that's okay because the information is still there. So if she opens it in a different program or if she downloads it onto her computer, she'll be able to see that metadata. Okay.
That's all done in Photoshop.
No. Okay. And I'm going to tell you the methods really shortly here, or some of the methods. So the sister in Florida, she likes to store her photos in Google Photos. So she takes the photo that she's downloaded from her brother's Dropbox, and she uploads it to her Google Photos. And if you can see in the little blue, the top left corner of the screen there, or top right corner, she can actually see the description that I typed in on the photo a while back in Google Photos, because Google Photos has an info tab, and if there's metadata in there, it will show in the info tab. You can't add metadata in Google Photos, but you can view some of it. Okay, so and this is my favorite part of the story. There's some random guy in England who is doing a Google search looking for some members of his family. In this Google search, he comes across this photo that I have uploaded to Family Search. And he's pretty excited. He says, "Blimey, that's my granddad." And so he gets really excited. He opens it. This is in, he's looking on his iPhone, I think, in a metadata app on his iPhone. And he sees my email address. He's excited because he wants to contact me because he has records on this family that go all the way back to the Doomsday Book. And so he wants to be able to share those with me. And I'm thrilled because I get to see these records. And I get to meet a cousin that I didn't know I had who happens to have a cottage in Cornwall and invites my family to come and spend the summer in their cottage in Cornwall, which is great because I'm a huge Poldark fan. So you can see what can happen just by taking a few extra seconds to add the metadata into your photo. Not only are you saving this information for future generations so that these people won't be invisible and anonymous, but you could also maybe get a free vacation out of it. Okay, so I just want to show you a couple of basic ways how to get that information into the sidecar. Okay, there are many, many different ways to do this, and we'll talk about a few, and I'll give you some of my recommendations and what I like to use, depending upon what platform you have and what you're trying to accomplish. And they range from being very simple and free to complicated and expensive, and not always at the same time. Okay, I just want to mention very quickly, this isn't a plug really, but I will be putting the step-by-step instructions on our blog. It's a non-commercial blog. We don't have any ads. You don't have to type in anything. But if you go to picturesandstories.com, click on the blog tab, and you can put in the search panel, you can put metadata, and this post will pop up. So you'll be able to see a lot of the stuff from this presentation. There's also a syllabus in your RootsTech app. Give me a couple of days, though. It might take me a couple of days to get that up there. So I'm going to start off with what I think is the easiest possible way to get metadata into your photos. Okay, so if I could see by a show of hands, how many people in here use a PC for most of your photo organization stuff? Okay, good number of hands. How many people are using a Mac computer? Okay, also a good number. How many people are exclusively using like an iPad or a phone to manage your digital photos? Okay, not too many of you. How about, is there anybody who's just not technological at all? Okay, that's okay, because that's what teenagers are for. Okay, so find your 12-year-old grandson or your 8-year-old granddaughter for that matter, and they will be able to help you with this. It's important. Okay. So this is the easiest thing in the world. If you are in a Windows system, this happens to be Windows 10, File Explorer, which is the basic Windows kind of way you get around Windows. If you click on a photo, you go to wherever that photo is on your computer, and you click on that, you can see, and I don't have a pointer on this, so in the left corner of the screen, on the left top, you notice there's a little blue highlighted thing called the details pane. Okay? Usually on the right side of the screen, the right side of the window, you'll just see a preview picture of that picture. But if you click on that details pane, you can see all this other information that goes with the photo. You can see marked in blue that there's a place that says title, it has contact, or author in this particular case, and you can add tags. So I can actually go right in that details pane without even opening up the photo. I can go in and I can type that in, and I can click save, and the metadata is in there. That's it. That's all there is. Is that easier than you thought it was? Okay, that is, I think, the easiest way to do it. You can kind of do it one at a time. So I'll show you some other ways as well. Now, you can also do the same thing if you right-click on that photo and go to the Properties tab and go to Details. You will also have that screen, and you can view metadata that's already in there, or you can add metadata of your own. Save it, and you're done. And that's it. You have metadata that is now attached to that photo. If you're still on Windows 7, it will pretty much works the same way. You can use the Properties, right-click and choose Properties, or on the Windows 7 screen, you can see down at the bottom, there's a little tab, a little toolbar that comes up at the bottom. And if you have your window open wide enough on the screen, that will pop up, and you can actually go and just click right on there where it says tags or title, and you can type that information in there. The easiest thing in the world. Okay, so for those of you who are using a Mac, it's not quite that easy, but that's okay. We can deal with that, okay? And that's partly because Apple they don't always want to play nice with other systems, so it just makes it a little bit more difficult. So usually if you're on a Mac computer, okay, and you double click on a photo, it'll usually open it up in preview. Now you can see this one, this is my version that I already added the metadata to, and it shows, I can see the title and a description in there. It shows me the creator, but it doesn't show copyright information or anything else. So it's got some limited metadata that shows up here. Okay, I can also go use Command I, and that will open the info panel for that image, and that will also show the metadata that I have typed in there. One thing I wanted to point out about there is a comments field in that info panel. If you type information in there, it does not embed in the photo and it doesn't go anywhere. I had to learn that the hard way a few years ago. So just be aware that if you type things in the comments field, you'll be able to see them on your system when you open that photo, but if you copy it or share it or do anything with it, that information will not travel with it. So it's not a great metadata. It's not actually a metadata field. No, no. Yeah. I'm sorry, yeah. She was asking if that's also true with a Windows system, and it is not. You can type information in the comments field in Windows, and if the viewing software that you're using shows that window, you'll be able to see that. But on a Mac, for some reason, that comments field is disconnected from the metadata. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. Okay. So the problem is that if you have a photo that you want to add metadata to, that's blank, it doesn't have any metadata, and you try to open it in preview, the problem is that those fields have disappeared. So it doesn't give you a blank field where you can add in a title and a creator and caption information. Okay, so you have to use a different way. You can view some metadata with the preview, but you can't add any in there. If you are using a computer or a laptop on a Mac, you can use the Photos app to enter a little bit of metadata. You can see here, I've got a blank screen when I go to the info panel, or some blank fields that I can fill in a title and a description and some keywords, but no contact information. So that's a little bit of a limitation. And I want to think that this is going to improve over time. The problem is that a lot of these apps, these Mac apps, have been getting simpler and less functional and I understand why they do that. But I think the trend is for them to simplify, not to add functionality. So I'm not holding my breath that it's going to get easier in the Mac operating software. If you have a Mac, don't feel like you have to run out and buy a PC just to enter your metadata. I'm going to show you some other ways to do this. Okay, this is. Androids are basically, it's going to be basically the same as what you do in a PC. And that totally depends on the software that you're using, not on the device itself. So it doesn't matter too much whether you have an Android or a Pixel phone or whatever. iPhones are a little different. They have their own Mac thing. So we're going to show some third-party apps if you have a Mac that will make this easier. You can also use these third-party apps on Android phones. Okay? And one thing to know is that the Mac Photos app you cannot view or add any metadata on an iPad or an iPhone, only on the computer. So, okay, here's just what to look for if you want to go to the App Store and you're going to download some kind of app to be able to record metadata. First of all, check the reviews. If it has 1 star, don't buy it because you're going to be wasting your $3, okay? Make sure that the app will let you record the IPTC data. There are a lot of metadata apps out there that only allow you to change the EXIF data, like to change the date that it shows under your photo or the location, not to add additional information. And likely, every device that you want to do this on, you're going to need a different app for that device. But the good news is they're only like usually $3 to $5. So you're not out a lot of money. This is one, and there are tons of them out there that do that. This is one that I found called Photo Meta Edit. And this I can use on my Mac computer. It was $3.99, and it's pretty basic, but it seemed to work just fine. There's one called Photo Investigator that I got for my iPad, and also works on an iPhone. Again, it's pretty basic. I think this one was $2.99, and it works just fine. Okay, what I want to show you next is my favorite way to enter metadata. Okay, it's a little bit more complicated, but it also does a lot more, and it's free. Okay, so this is called Adobe Bridge, and as I said, it's free. This totally looks like a guy in my ward. Okay, disclaimer, I do not work for Adobe, okay, and I'm not trying to sell anything that Adobe does. However, I just think this is a great program, and it's the only program that Adobe offers for free to anyone. And that's not just a free trial. You don't have to put your credit card number in. It is free, free, free. You can just go, anybody can go to the website and download it. And they used to sell it, they used to bundle it with Photoshop, so when you bought Photoshop, you got the bridge for free. But now anybody can go, and you don't have to use it with Photoshop, you can use it with any program. And Tom was kind of wondering, why would they just give it away like that? I personally think it's kind of a gateway drug to Adobe products. They figure, oh, you're gonna like this so much, you're gonna wanna buy a bunch of other ones. So free, there are no strings attached. It works on either platform. So it works on either Mac, or it works on a PC, and you can also download a mobile version that will work on an iPad, or it'll work on your Android phone, or it'll work on your iPhone. So and they have been around for a long time, so it's not buggy. They know what they're doing. You can use it in conjunction with any photo editing software, Photoshop, PaintShop Pro, whatever you like to use, or none. And you can add metadata to multiple photos at once, which is really nice. If you have a big group of stuff and you want to add your contact information to all of it, you can do that all at the same time. And you can customize your workflow. It's really nice. You can move things around on the screen and have your screen look exactly the way you want it so that it works the best for you. So I'm going to close out of this presentation just for a moment here. And I'm actually going to attempt to show you how this works quickly in real time. Okay. So I'm going to open up Bridge on my computer. And like I said, this is on the Mac, but I also have this on my PC at home, which is what I use for most of my stuff. I have 3 monitors on my desk. The right-hand monitor is completely dedicated to Bridge. I have this program open on my monitor 24/7 all the time. And I use it all day, every day, pretty much. All right, so now you can see up in the upper corner up here, I have 2 versions of my photo, all right? This is what the bridge looks like, essentially. And I'm just looking at all these photos that are in this folder that I have. Now, I've clicked on this first version of it, and I can see over here, it's got my name and my email address in the creator field. It's got my email address in there again. It's got a description. It's got the keywords. I can see everything. And this is what I use to actually also type in the metadata. So I'm going to go to the blank version, okay? And let's say that I'm going to add, I just want to add a description. I just click on that. Okay, just put my information in there, and I can go to the next field if I want. I can just put whatever information I want in there. I'm going to click this little check mark down at the bottom, make sure it's all saved, okay? And that's it, I'm done. I can also select a whole range of photos, or I can select all to select everything in the folder. And you can see here where it says multiple values. This means it has different information in each one. Let's say that I want to put my name as the creator of this whole range of photos, all these photos that I have selected. I do that, and now everyone that I click on has my name in there. Okay, easy, right? You can move these windows around. You can increase the font size, which is great if you have eyes that are getting older, okay? So That's it. Super easy.
When you did that, did it erase everything else that was on those photos?
No.
That information is still there?
Yes, that information is still there. Okay, and I'm going to leave a lot of time for questions at the end too, so hang on to your question if you have any, and we will get to that. All right, let me play this again. Okay, so there are some more expensive and more complicated programs that you can get that deal with metadata. And you think, well, why? If I can get that great program for free, why would I want to spend more money to do it? But there are some reasons why you would want to in order to, I just need to get my, sorry, I'm just going to get my presenter view back again. Or maybe not. Let's just hit play and move on. Okay, so there are some reasons why you would want to invest some money in other programs, and I'm just going to go through those really quickly. There are basically 3 different kinds of photo organization software out there, okay? And there's a reason I'm telling you what these 3 versions are, because they handle metadata differently. The first kind is what's just basically an image viewer. It allows you to look at the photos that you have, okay? It doesn't automatically organize them for you. It relies on the organization that you have set up in your computer. And you can usually do some minor editing with some of them. Adobe Bridge is an image viewing program. You can do some minor things with it, but it's basically not organizing them for you. Finder on the Mac, File Explorer in Windows. There's a popular freeware software called InFriendView, which a lot of people use. Those are examples of image viewers. Okay. The second type is called non-destructive editing and organizing software. This is also referred to as photo libraries or photo databases. And you would think, well, of course I want something that's non-destructive. I don't want to destroy my photos. But that's not quite what it means. And there are some good things about this, and there are some not so good things about it. I personally don't use a library program. I prefer to use Bridge as an image viewer. But for some people, they really like them, and they make a lot of sense. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't use that. There are some free ones that have limited editing capabilities. They're basically just there to kind of organize your photos. The Photos app on both Mac and Windows acts as a really simple kind of organizational database for your photos. And it will group them into albums or into collections according to where they were shot or who's in the photo. If you're using facial recognition software, a lot of these databases have that in there. It will group them together according to what it thinks, how it thinks you might want to have them organized by date. iPhoto and Picasa are both programs that are no longer supported, but those are kind of really popular versions of database, usually free database software. There are some more expensive versions of the database software, non-destructive, that do extensive editing. They basically combine the qualities of Photoshop with an organizational database. Lightroom, Adobe Lightroom is one of those. Another popular one is called ACDC, Photo Mechanic. It used to be Aperture on the Mac. They've discontinued that, but if you're familiar with that. Usually how you know that you have a database software instead of just an image viewer is that it requires you to import the photos that you want to into the database, okay? And what it does is that when you make edits, hang on to that question just for 1 second. When you make edits, it will keep those versions, like if you have maybe a color version, then you want to do a version in black and white, and maybe you want to do a cropped version. It will keep each version separately, but it also keeps your original intact. So you can always go back to that if you want to, and it keeps all these different versions in the software, which is great because it makes you run faster. It creates less room, it makes more room on your disk. And that's why they call it non-destructive editing, because it leaves your original intact when you do editing on it. Okay, Lightroom is an example of this. So this is what the Lightroom, and you can see the metadata fields over on the right where they have highlighted in blue. They look kind of very similar to the Adobe Bridge, but in Lightroom, I actually have to import my photos into the database. Okay, you can see at the bottom, hopefully, that there is there's an import and export feature on there. Lightroom costs about $10 a month bundled with Photoshop, so if you get that from Adobe. So it's, that adds up. But it can do a lot of things. You can do a lot of editing that you would do in Photoshop, but it's just kind of easier if you don't want to have the learning curve in Photoshop. This is the main thing you need to know if you want to use a database type photo organization software, like Lightroom, like Photos on your Mac, like the Photos app on your Windows machine, is that in order for it to keep your metadata, you have to export that photo to a new file name in order for it to save that version on your hard drive as a separate file. That means that what happens is that if I open this photo in Lightroom, I add the metadata, the photo, the basic photo, unedited without the metadata, is still on my hard drive. So if I go to my hard drive and then drag the photo up into Family Search, that metadata is not going to go with it. So I have to export it to photo A/metadata, or I need to give it a new file name, then it will save the metadata with that, and that's the one that I have to upload. So I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that, because if you spend a lot of time putting all that metadata in, and then you drag those photos from your hard drive over into Family Search or whatever, the metadata may not go with it. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. Okay, the third type is just cloud photo storage, and some of them have organizational capacities and some don't. These would be things like Google Photos, Dropbox, iCloud Photo, etc. Generally, if you are going to share photos from any of these cloud storage things, you need to add the metadata in a program before you upload it to the cloud storage, because most of them don't have a way to add metadata while it's there in the cloud. Okay, just a couple other really quick things, and then I will open it up for questions. When you are dealing with Family Search and Ancestry, you want to add your metadata before you upload it to Family Search. When you go to upload, you upload a photo to Family Search Memories, right? And there's a little place where you add the title, and then there's another place where you add the description, okay? And then you can go in and you can tag the faces on your photo. That's a great and wonderful thing, and that information is all in Family Search. However, if somebody, at least at this point, if somebody downloads that photo from Family Search, all of that lovely descriptive information that you typed into Family Search does not come with the photo onto that person's computer who's downloading it. Okay? So, but if you add the metadata in a photo program before you upload it to Family Search, I wish it would take your metadata that you've added in and automatically populate those fields into Family Search, but it doesn't do that. You have to type in the title and the description and everything again, but when someone downloads that file, the metadata will be there with the photo, and they will still have that information. So it's a little bit of a two-step process. You kind of have to add that information in twice. All right, so this just shows, if I want to drag it into the gallery, where it says George and Emma Knightley arrive in New York, that I have actually had to type in there in the Family Search window, because otherwise it just says add title. Even if the metadata is in there, you have to retype it in again, okay? And so whatever you type into Family Search is independent of the metadata that you have attached to that photo. One other thing that's really important that I want you to know how to do when you are downloading a photo from Family Search, and that is, you can see this window here where it shows the title, and you see kind of a smaller version of the photo, and it's got your description on the right. This is also would be where where the connections to your family tree would show up on the right here. If you right-click and save as this smaller version of the photo from this screen, you will not get the metadata with it. Furthermore, you will get a smaller version of the original photo. This is basically a large thumbnail. So what you need to do instead, if you're going to download something off of Family Search, you need to go to this click on the Details button that has the eye on it, and then click View Original, okay? And then it will give you the larger version of the photo. You are looking at the original photograph that someone has uploaded to Family Search. And when you download that from this screen, if you right-click and Save As, you will get the metadata along with the photo. Okay, does that make sense? I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Okay, a couple last little things about metadata. If you put in your copyright information for images that you own, it's not going to guarantee you legal protection, but it might help, at least if you make people aware that you are the owner of this photo, it might prevent them from using that unnecessarily. But the other thing you have to know about metadata is that anybody can go in and erase it. So there is no way, at least at this point in time, to make permanent metadata permanently a part of your photograph. Someone can always go in and change it or erase it if they want to. So just be aware of that. Social media. Unfortunately, at least at this date and time, if you upload a photo with all your beautiful metadata into Facebook and somebody else downloads that from Facebook, no metadata. Okay, it strips it out. And I haven't checked that with every social media outlet out there, but I would imagine most of them do. Also, a lot of blogging platforms and some websites will also strip the metadata from your photos. So just be aware of that and make sure that if you are uploading photos to share with other people, that you don't just do it in Photoshop or in Facebook or in other social media apps, that you also are sharing with genealogy sites, you're sharing with other people that you know, and maybe using a genealogy-specific program to do that. Also, test your method. Before you add a huge bunch of metadata to a lot of images, do one or two with the software that you've chosen and try uploading it somewhere and then downloading again. Try sending it to a couple of friends and make sure that the metadata is coming across the way that you want it to. Because you don't want to spend hours typing in all this information and then find out that it really doesn't go anywhere, which is kind of what happened to me a few years ago with typing in comments into a Mac, thinking that was a metadata field, and it turns out that it wasn't. So just test it a couple of times. Adding metadata it's an imperfect technology at this point in time. I think not in the not too distant future, I think there will be, when you buy a digital camera, for instance, you will be able to actually type that information on the photo right into your camera or right into your smartphone as you capture it, which would make things so much easier. But right now, most of these manufacturers are not on board. However, I think that's going to improve. I just talked briefly with a gentleman who was part of the Innovator Summit. He has a program called Chroma with a Q, starts with a Q, which basically uses, it works only on an iPhone, but basically it uses voice recognition software so that you can speak your metadata descriptions into, and locations and other things into your phone, and it will record that into the metadata. So I think that as those kind of things improve, it's going to be a lot easier to do that. But right now, it just takes a little bit of extra time and diligence to be able to add your metadata in there. So to protect your photos, you just want to make sure that you scan them properly at a high resolution so they can be used for different purposes. Add the metadata. Share on genealogy sites. Share them with your family. Make sure everybody in the family has copies of your metadataed photos. And that way, if somebody loses theirs, then someone else has a copy. And also, you want to keep a copy both on physical and in cloud storage so that if you only have all your photos on that one computer that's sitting in your house and your house burns down, you're losing all of that. If you only have it in the cloud and that cloud company goes out of business, then you might be in trouble too. So you want to make sure that you have a balance, that you have a backup between both physical and cloud storage. All right, thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them after. Thank you.